Now I'm in this space where, like, I really only want to have good conversations that are journalistic enough.
Yeah.
With people who are cool about cool ideas, but they just pull you in because it's becoming Hollywood. So what I have to do is say, like, how do I keep from taking on all of their trappings just because I think I'm supposed to?
I just used to spend 10 to 12 hours a day. I don't mean anything in this world unless I am the best employee that works the hardest.
And the next day I have a sign and I'm just silently protesting the fruit water. If I don't care about the dumbest thing, then I'll let go of that for the most important thing. Sam Sanders, no one needs an introduction. Where did your love of vanity plates come from? Because you love a vanity plate. And whenever I now see a cute vanity plate,
people send them to me.
I have to send it to you.
There was some viral local news clip took off online. This woman in Florida was just re-upping her plates, getting the next plates for her car. And the plates that the state sent her spelled out "squeeze ass." And she's like, I don't know. 15 people sent that to me. Yes, they know. Yeah. Good.
So if you any kind of vanity
send it to
news, okay.
Send it. If you're in the car with me and we're driving and I see one, I'll be like, take a picture of it now.
Oh my God.
I'm selective of what to send you because I feel like you have a high
standard. Send them all.
But the one that I sent you, I think a year ago or so, it's like, I am the one.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes. I love that. For years, I've told anyone that will listen that, like, my dream podcast is a limited run series, 10 stories behind 10 vanity plates, and the people.
That's a brilliant idea.
Because my theory is that half of all vanity plates are actually just the result of a bad divorce.
Oh, wow.
You're reclaiming your freedom.
That's a great theory.
It wasn't a bad divorce, but I am divorced.
Did you get a vanity plate after that?
Yeah.
Oh my
What would your post-divorce vanity plate have been?
Evangelical.
Then rock.
That would have been your vanity plate.
No, that was my vanity plate.
Your post-divorce vanity plate?
Rock.
I told you.
You're right. Okay.
All vanity plates.
Yes.
Yo.
Did it have to do with the fact that you were getting divored?
No, but like
dudes rock.
I'm sure it did.
Dudes rock.
Yeah. RK was where we landed on that on the end.
Oh, okay.
It was a Toyota Tacoma.
Fuck yeah.
Beautiful truck.
Great truck.
Moved to upstate New York. Went to a Toyota dealership right after the pandemic, or like 2021. Needed a car. Wanted it to be a Tacoma. These things are hard to find.
Tacomas?
And the perfect Tacoma.
Okay. What year did you want?
2021. No like decals on the side. Perfect rims. It got stolen in Sherman Oaks last year.
Because that sexy plate.
Sad.
The sexy plate.
You know what's funny about this conversation is that you guys can just talk about like it, and I don't mean to generalize, but I'm going to. But men can just sit and talk about cars. Like it's a language that you guys speak. And when you like, I have no idea. I'm not picturing a car. I have no idea what that looks like. He asked all the right questions. It's just like, man, conversation would be awesome if I knew anything about cars.
You know a lot more than you think.
I don't know about cars though.
You know what you like. What do you like in a car?
You should have seen me car shopping. I was so bad. I was like, I don't care. Just buy it. I don't give a shit. I like a Subaru because I'm from Vermont.
They work. They're really great cars.
Yeah.
You know the thing about Subaru.
What's the thing about Subaru?
Let me tell you about
No, I'm saying this is what I mean. You guys have all this knowledge
They were
in your
gay
head.
on purpose. There's been business studies about Subaru's plan for world domination. When they started selling cars in the U.S., it just didn't really get traction at first. But they noticed that lesbians liked them because they could off-road very well. And so for years, Subaru's marketing wasn't explicitly gay, but pretty gay.
Yeah.
A wink and a nod.
Yeah.
And everyone knew, and it worked. And now Subarus are among the top 10 best-selling cars in the country and the world. Just big period. But like they leaned into the lesbians very hard. And they'll tell you. They're like, yeah, we did.
What is it about queer culture that has that influence?
We do it first.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can tell a neighborhood's going to gentrify.
Yeah.
Not when the young kids in the strollers get there, but when the gays show up. Because they're going to flip it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I
It's always
think
a good sign, honestly.
As someone who was obsessed with talking and how language is changed through conversation and culture, all new language is created by either queer people, young teenage girls, or black people.
I thought it was just black people, I'm going to be honest.
The queers do it.
Okay.
I feel like now, and I mean, queers are all colors.
Yeah.
Now, so much of the internet slang that I hear is just ballroom language.
Yeah.
It's like everyone watched Pose, but you didn't because it would have still been on the air. But yeah, I don't know. It's like the queer people get there first.
Yeah.
I think queer people get there first by choice.
Yeah.
Black people were there first because you put us there.
Yeah. No, true that.
Where were we? Cars.
I think one of the
Dane's gonna
questions that I'm interested in, like starting here with, is what inning are we in the Sam Sanders baseball game? Because you've been doing this for a long time, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come.
Remember when Michael Jordan retired and it was like, good for you, dude. And he was like, psych, I'm gonna play basketball again. What if that's my season? I'm not Michael Jordan. What inning am I in?
What inning
of my game?
out of 9?
I ask myself a lot of times, especially now at 41, what I want work to look like for me for this decade and the next and maybe the next. And I think that was a very distinct shift that happened right around 40. I think in my 20s and my 30s, I measured my career in the time it took to achieve very explicit public milestones. I want to be a full reporter by this time. I want my own show by this time. I want this title, and I want to be number one on this thing, and I want that award. And then I think really during COVID lockdown, I was like, okay, everything reconfigured, my relationship to time reconfigured. And I also realized I was entering into middle age, and I was going to be, in this version of American capitalism, probably working for another 10 or 20 years. Knowing that, how fast do I want to go? Like, how fast do I want to go? Like, do I want to be running at a breakneck speed for 20 years? Or do I want to settle in, enjoy what's happening, be forward planning and forward thinking, but really kind of try to manage my relationship with urgency?
Wow. That is such a good answer.
Because the industry is going to change in ways that I can't even predict. Knowing that, the best thing I can do is be prepared, find my lane, stay in it, and be open to collaboration. I did not know when I started out podcasting 11 years ago. We launched the NPR Politics Podcast in 2015.
Wow.
Video on your phone was not a thing. And if it was rudimentary. So when I was thinking about what my career was going to look like, all I wanted in that moment was like to one day have my own radio show. I would have never known that this would be a part of what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
And so had I not just been like, Sam, do your thing and stuff will happen, I would have like probably looked at this shifting landscape and ran away from it. But now I'm like, you know what? I'll be working 20 more years. What I'm good at is asking questions. Let me find a way just to be good at asking questions in whatever format.
Wow.
Do you feel like your career is happening to you, or you are happening to your career? Like, are you deliberately making steps?
My career's not me.
Yeah.
That is
What does that mean?
My
Sorry.
career's not me. I think I spent so much time, you know this.
Like an
You build-
identity.
you build the brand of you, and the thing that you're selling is you.
Yeah.
And now I have a show with my name on it, and people know me and my dog and my life and my mom who's dead, and it's like literally.
Sorry,
People sent me gifts after my mother died.
Wow.
I talked about it. Strangers. This is not bad, but it's like I have to do a lot of work to say I'm still Sam with people who love me in my physical presence, whether or not anyone listens to this show or that show or whatever.
Did you see a change in the people around you when you started kind of elevating into, like, did people start treating you differently that you were close to, or did you just have a group of people that all weren't affected?
I was around other journalists, so it never felt, I was just doing my job. If anything, when I was still in a newsroom, I was always just jealous of my friends who were in print. Like I was hosting this big podcast that was at its peak when I was on the NPR Politics Podcast. We had 1 million unique listeners in a week. This was a week of the election, which is a lot for back then. I don't know what the metrics are now. All the metrics are different, but it was big. But none of that, in my mind, was the same as like my dear friend Yamiche Alcindor, who was covering Bernie for the Times in that cycle. When she got an A1 story at the Times, I was like, no, girl, that's it. I'm just gabbing. Yeah. You did a story.
But do you think that if you had gotten that, you would be looking at the person who is hosting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and then this is what you realize once you're middle-aged and you've seen, now I have former colleagues of mine and friends of mine who have like covered their 3rd presidential cycle. I look at them now and I'm kind of just like, you're doing a job. And you're doing it very well, but you'd rather be home with your kids and just chilling. Yeah, like they're jobs, right? Like they're all jobs. I love my job. I'm so lucky and blessed to get to talk to interesting people about interesting things all the time. It is also a job.
That's really healthy.
Yeah,
I got to tell you.
I'm trying.
As a workaholic in process. Like,
yeah. What kind of workaholic are you?
Oh, every kind. What do you mean?
At the same time, just tell me more.
I mean, I just used to spend 10 to 12 hours a day. It affected my relationships. My dad worked for NPR, so he took me to work every day. And it was just such this like...
Which building? In D.C.?
No. In Vermont Public Radio.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Have you been there?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're so nice out there.
They're so nice.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's a validation element where it was like, I don't mean anything in this world unless I am the best employee that works the hardest, that does the most. And yeah, it's been a lot to kind of like deprogram that because it's in me really deeply. So hearing you say that is a good reminder because it would be all I thought and focused on. I also don't have kids and I'm in my late 30s. So it's like, what else is there? That's kind of how I looked at it.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
A dear friend of mine, former colleague, Audie Cornish, she said in an interview years ago, and I've always held on to it, she said about work and her relationship with work, she said, if you work like a dog, they'll treat you like a dog.
Oh, that hurts.
It's like, okay.
That hurts.
Okay.
So much.
And so now I don't work like a dog. I work like Sam, which is hopefully not too much.
You know what's interesting? I worked like a dog at Simplecast, and they treated me like a dog there.
Yeah.
I did so less so at Headgum and Gumball, and I'm doing less so for my own business.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's your own, like, you have your own business, but you can't.
That's crazy, by the way, because you do a lot.
But I think it's like, I don't know, what it's been for me is like a shift. So like I used to be really concerned with like, proving I put in the most time and the most hours and I'm always there.
Yeah.
And now what I value, and I think my colleagues value, and I think a lot of workplaces value, is actually reliability. When I started hosting, I wanted to look over the producer's shoulder for every cut.
Yeah.
I wanted to re-edit my editor's edits. I never was done with the copy. And I fretted over every piece of thing I made.
Yeah.
And that made me feel like I was doing a good job.
Yep.
But actually, I was anxious on the microphone because of it. So now I do a lot less editing. I do a lot less listening. Once I tape the conversation, it's done. But I know that what I have to come in and do that makes everyone else's life easier is them knowing that whenever the mic is on, I'm ready. So I do less hours of work now in my life than I did 10 years ago, but every hour of work I give the people I'm working with is reliably at a level where it's not going to, you can count on me.
Yeah.
Mic's on, we got it.
Yeah.
And that is so much more valuable in the long run than the whirling dervish who was just always spinning.
God.
You hosted the business summit that I put on last year.
I did. It was so fun.
Fast Follow
It's
Summit.
also just like my goal was to be like, let me just show up and plug and play.
Right.
What do you need? How can we do this? Okay, ready.
Right.
Like that's actually what
But
you
you
want.
can do all the other stuff is probably the hard part. Like you can edit and you can.
That's why I can't listen to podcasts.
Well, you got to the.
I can't listen to podcasts
I can't do
either.
it. I'm like who wrote this?
I can't do it either.
Yeah.
I really can't.
I have a few that I listen to, and that's it.
Yeah.
And now I can't really even watch TV. But yeah. I have a hard time with that too. That's good to know. Yeah. Because you know everything.
I know the formulas.
Yeah.
It's like, all of it. One of my favorite editors told me years ago, she's like, there's only really 3 kinds of conversations. There's only really 3 kinds of conversations that you will hear in your ears when you're listening to a podcast. It's one person asking someone else questions, more than 2 people asking each other questions, or one person bringing you all kinds of sounds from questions they ask to a lot of people. That's it.
That's not.
That's
wrong.
that's
Not
it.
wrong.
And so it's like,
What is your show? What formula does your show follow of those 3?
in the best version of an episode, let's take this Friday's episode. The Odyssey is out this weekend. I interviewed one of my favorite film critics of all time, Angelica Jade Bastian from Vulture. And I wanted her review, but I wanted to take my take to her and
Did you see
means test it. I did see it. And so with that one, I kind of go into a mode of criticism where I'm basically like, I have a hunch that I feel this way about this movie, but let me gut check it with someone who really knows. I love that formula.
Yeah.
We did it this time with The Odyssey by basically me being like, does Christopher Nolan have a woman problem? And Angelica being like, yes. Hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
So that formula I love. I am not a critic, I'm a fan. But I have some thoughts. Can a critic help me work this out? I did that with Vincent Cunningham after Justin Bieber's Coachella set. I was like, I think I'm supposed to like this, but I don't. Vincent, tell me the ways, please.
Yeah.
So that, and then there are other models of chat where if I'm interviewing just like a star, it is asking them about how they made the work, how they think the work changes them and their audience, and what that change feels like. Like an artist chat is always looking at the art this person has made and the trajectory of change around it to their world, to the outside world, etc. And then I think there's like the third box that I kind of try to fill is just like a, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? Like what are these kids doing over there?
Yeah.
Like I did one the Wall Street Journal had an article that spoke to a thing I'd been seeing and feeling for a while. The piece basically was like, are the kids not dancing anymore? Yeah. And they're not. Social media scared them, cameras scared them, so I had a chat
It's
about
so upsetting.
that. Yeah. So I talked with the journal reporter and I'm like, what's up with that? So those are my 3 boxes.
It's funny. You're kind of like a comedian that checks sources rather than rather than just going in front of people with a mic and being like, this is true.
Yeah. It's just in me. I'm just
that.
a host now, but I was a reporter for years.
Yeah.
And like the rule was you only get to say something if someone else said it. Like that was the rule. We're there to be the messenger, but like the only way we get to say something is if we're saying, and they said it. Yeah. So that's always just baked in me. And when I was a producer before being a reporter, a lot of my job was just like bringing tape to the reporter who was pulling from all different kinds of things. So they'd be like, all right, we're doing a story on the earthquake in D.C. that maybe cracked the Washington Monument. Go get some tape.
Yeah.
So I talk to 10 people, keep them talking as long as possible, get back, go through the hours of tape, and say, use these 4 cuts. But the rule when you're going out for those is literally just keep them talking. Like keep them talking. And so that...
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
I love it.
Yeah.
I can keep them talking.
I don't know. I feel like if there's a mark on the wall, you could talk about it for hours.
Someone told me once, you could talk to a brick wall. And I was like, complimentary? I hope so. But sure, I would.
It is.
Because I bet a brick wall has a lot to say.
Yeah, sure. Where did it come from? What are the bricks made
What have
of?
you seen?
Yeah, exactly.
You've seen things, brick wall?
Okay, so you've been like every element of a podcast, basically.
Oh, gosh. I've done chat shows. I've done solo hosting shows. I've done stuff that leans more news. I've done stuff that leans more entertainment.
What's your least favorite?
I am of those or of the world. News drains you.
I'm not surprised by that.
News, you're never done with news. I had this chat about the Odyssey with this film critic. Very proud of this conversation. I've put the Odyssey to bed, and I will not pick it up again until the thick of awards season, when no one from that team will talk to me because I dissed their movie. But like, I'll think about it then. Whereas you're covering politics, you're covering business, you're covering Zoran Mamdani. That story is always moving and always changing, and you're always plugged in. I get to very discreetly and distinctly say, working hours, not working hours. I watched the movie. I wrote my questions. I had the conversation. I can think about Christopher Nolan more if I want to, but I don't have to. You're covering news. You never stop thinking about the guy you're covering. Like when I was covering the election, I remember, and I would tell people this, the first thing I thought about when I woke up in the morning and the last thing I thought about before I went to bed
That's relatable.
was Donald Trump.
Oh, gosh.
Because
Nightmare.
that's your job, right?
Right.
And so to not have to do that anymore is great.
Yeah. I don't know.
One thing that, and this is probably me listening to Vibe Check way back when.
Yeah. Still exists. Go listen. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
The girls
no,
are still
and
there.
Something about your approach to podcasting, and in that context, your co-host as well. But even now, is your ability to hold all of the topics at once. And, you know, you would open that show talking about the genocide in Gaza and then go right into pop culture topics. And able to hold the tension and the uncertainty and the horror of that with the joy and the laughter. Even just looking at your list of episodes for the Sam Sanders Show, you're peppering all of it in together. And I guess, like, what is the impulse or the maybe responsibility that you hold as an entertainer and a question asker?
I think the goal is to be still enough and quiet enough to really figure out what I'm actually curious about. I think there is a pressure to perform curiosity about things you're not really curious about. Every day there is a deep pressure on me, I feel, to know everything that Donald Trump has done. And I could. Somebody needs to. But that's not my value add right now. And so I try to take a little bit of time every day where the phone's not around and I'm outside walking the dog or whatever, and I'm thinking about, like, what questions I generally just have. And it's questions about how media is changing so quickly and what it means to be entertained or informed and how all of those lines are blurring. And so when I take time to think about that ennui, I end up with, like, ideas for conversations. What I got from all that ennui was like, all right, well, if the internet's so weird right now and it totally sucks, what is a good spot of the internet that I actually like? And I was like, Wikipedia.
Are you always going up there?
Yeah, spinning.
Just nonstop, huh?
Yeah. So it's just like waiting for the right question to hit and then saying, is this a conversation? So, like, my saga over how all the internet just feels bad right now resulted in me doing an episode with the person who runs the Depths of Wikipedia account, because I think Wikipedia is like one of the last good spots of internet left. So that, right? And for me, that is a more interesting conversation than, did you see what Trump just did? But I only get to that idea for an episode by literally just saying, what am I curious about? What am I curious about? And usually what I'm curious about kind of mirrors what my audience is curious about. And then once I figure that out, I say, all right, this is the topic at hand. How can I find a way to ask a question that either hasn't been asked before about this thing or that advances the conversation to the next big question about this thing? With that.
So behind the scenes with that, you have that thought on your walk with your dog. And then are you texting your producer or are you just...
I don't need to go to them until it's all got it all worked out. Because a lot of times it's a word soup in my mind that has to like figure itself out. And I'm like, actually, I want this one.
Yeah. So then do you say email this person or are you emailing that person?
Either or. I'm in the DMs a lot. Just booking.
You use a voice memo or anything? Or it's just you.
It's weird. Sometimes a lot of booking happens in Instagram DMs. A lot of it. And sometimes I'll send like just a minute-long voice note in an Instagram DM. Be like, hey, sorry to make it weird, but this is, I talk, and I'm really into you, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that's how I got Annie Rowerda from Depths of Wikipedia. We're going to run on Tuesday Jane Wickline of SNL fame. She has a new off-Broadway show called Dukes. It's great. She DM'd me and was like, I like your show. I'm promoting my show. Can I? And I was like, yeah, girl, I like you.
I actually got in a pretty big fight with a network CEO about this very thing because he wanted to charge people for guest booking. And I was like...
Wait, explain.
He wanted to charge the podcasters for guests that he was able to bring in.
How much?
I don't...
Okay.
Because he offered it to us, and I was just like, no.
Yeah.
No, because that's when I discovered the DMing.
If they follow you and you follow them, they want you to be in their DMs.
Yes, exactly.
They want it.
That it's a social thing that if you don't get it, you don't get it. But that happened so much with me where I was like, I don't need anyone. Like, I'll just DM them, and what's the worst that can happen?
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and so like that happens a lot. My showrunner is our lead booker, and he has a relationship with a lot of wonderful publicists who like honestly feed us. We were doing really well with like Daily Show personalities for a while because it was like one publicist. So that's the game that Tyler helps us play. And then Bennett and Andrea, our producers, are very good at helping me like find the right journalist to speak to a question. So there's some weeks where I'm like, I have a question about this. I want a good talker on that. Go. And then they'll find that for me. Wow. So like I knew that I wanted to talk about the new Madonna album. I was like, Madonna, the album, I want a music critic or a PhD in music who's gay and knows Madonna's like history. And they found him. Louis Niebuhr, professor of musicology at University of Nevada, Reno. Lovely conversation.
Is there any subject that you're not, what are the subjects you're not curious about? Because I feel like there might not be anything.
I'm a lot less interested in heteronormative male culture than I was 10 years ago.
Amen.
I'm a lot less I love you very much. I'm a lot less interested journalistically in straight men than I was 10 years ago.
Feel that. Yeah, because we've spent so much time on them.
We don't even realize how much we swim in their water.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking to Angelica, this film critic at Vulture who I love, and I wanted to have her on specifically because I'd heard her on Wesley Morris's podcast talking about the film hit of the summer, one of the film hits of the summer, Obsession. She was like, there's a lot wrong with this movie, but a bigger thing that this movie shows all of us is how the vast majority of film, still, period, all of it, is made by straight men through the lens and worldview of straight men.
Yeah.
And she said that, and I was like, oh, fuck. Like, most of pop culture is still created for the boys.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a director, and I never thought it was possible, but I would look at the male directors, and I'd be like, okay, James Cameron has some, like, great female roles. Scorsese's movies, always the worst female roles. But, like, I would try to choose ones that, like, had great women role. Tarantino, pretty good at it.
Jackie Brown.
Yeah.
Not bad.
No. And so... But that's absolutely right. I started noticing that too, and being like, that we're just not shown our true story. And probably part of the reason is because a lot of men are writing the female characters.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's like no knock on men, no knock on straight men. But if I'm like, all right, if I'm a savvy culture thinker, what is my competitive advantage? What is my value add? What does the marketplace need more of right now?
Yeah.
Not that.
Straight men got it covered.
Yeah, we're good.
They're on a mic. And you know what? I never get mad at straight men having a lot of podcasts. I'm just like, I'm glad they're talking about their feelings. I'm glad they're talking about their feelings.
Wow, that's a really nice way to look at it.
But like, I'm not doing that. I'm doing this, right? I am having these conversations that really revolve around identity, queerness, otherness, and how it shapes art. Yeah. That's really where I'm at. I talk to straight people, obviously, but that's not my editorial or intellectual North Star these days.
Yeah. Great answer.
Am I going to get canceled for this?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
My favorite acronym is WAIT. Do you know this one?
No, tell me.
It's Why Am I Talking?
Yeah.
And as a guy, that is something I'm asking myself all the time. Like, why am I talking in this environment, in this group situation, in this one-on-one thing, even on this podcast? And people need to ask themselves that a lot more.
And also, on top of the why am I talking question, is there someone who could do this talking better than me that is right there?
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Have it. Take it.
Yeah.
Your approach to your show, it kind of just reminds me of like digital magazine, like how a writer would approach. I want to write a story. Let's talk to this specialist. Let's talk to this person. And there was a recent LinkedIn post that I read where the writer was talking about how the podcast industry can be split into magazine type podcasts, which might be the chat, the interview, the celebrity focus, the Hollywood of it all, the video. And then there's a slice of podcasting that is more like book publishing, and it's more narrative focused or investigative or what have you. How do you see the podcast industry currently? I mean, the show's, suspects that this is TV now. Do you believe that? And what pocket of the ecosystem do you feel like you find yourself in?
Two answers. I'll talk about what this season of TV or podcasting feels like, but first, what I'm doing. I had a boss many, many years ago who I didn't like that much, but every now and then he'd say something nice. And when I was coming up covering politics, he was like, you know what, Sam? You're not really a news reporter. You're not breaking news. And I was like, what the fuck, Chris? And he's like, you're breaking ideas. You're an ideas reporter. And I was like that. So I think that like what I'm chasing are conversations about a big idea or a big question. Like that's me. And that probably fits more on the narrative, publishy, that kind of conversation
There's
side.
more length to that.
Yeah. I think there's a whole crop of podcasts that track where, and this is no shade, it's very much like easy listening. I need to hear friendly people talking as I go about my day. I love those podcasts, but I don't think I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Do you have a drive? You do seem like you have a drive in you that has to know the answer to these questions, or at least really believes that it should be discussed.
Yes.
Is that accurate? Okay. Yeah. I like that. Where it's like you can't just let things go. You have to be like, no, but why?
Well, and it's like I really need to know everyone's opinion on it.
Yeah.
I'm always like, what do you think? What do you think? So that it's just in
almost
I'm
everyone's
nosy.
opinion.
Is it a way to just kind of not feel alone in your own mind?
Yeah.
I can relate to that.
Yes.
There's a lot. I could be talking at all times, and I wish there was like a person here to be like,
I know.
And I make the person, whoever that person is.
Whatever you don't make the person chat GPT. I'm seeing some friends of mine like get a little too friendly with old chat, and it's like God bless, but first the data centers, and two like that's not your friend.
That's not your friend.
To this season of TV though, talking about the shift. What was the question again? Tell me again.
Yeah, just like where, I don't know, do you concern yourself over the definition from the, like, a lot of your recent episodes and maybe a lot of your episodes kind of hover around Hollywood. And I think the podcast industry, like the industrial complex of the podcast industry, is obsessed with the idea of shoehorning itself into Hollywood.
Which is wild because Hollywood is dying.
Yeah.
The only part of media, the only part of entertainment media that is consistently growing is gaming.
Yep.
Sports always grows or stays high enough. Gaming grows astronomically. Movies down. Music down. Books down. TV down.
Yeah.
So this is what's always so weird to me when people are like, Hollywood, Hollywood, Hollywood. Girl, they're dying.
You know what's funny is I used to work with some of the biggest gamers, including Markiplier, and they all were very interested on the other side of the fence. Like they were like interested in being part of it, this Hollywood thing, not realizing really that they were sort of the center of the growth. Yeah. And I find that really interesting. Might be because they grew up with that idea. But yeah, that's exactly right. It's like you want something that doesn't really exist anymore.
The Hollywood that we talk about
Yeah.
hasn't existed since the Twin Towers fell.
Sorry.
No, the 90s were peak monoculture pop culture, peak box office, peak pre-internet homogeneity.
Yeah.
9/11 changed the mood of the country irreversibly, and that was around the same time that we were walking into this era of big internet that broke everything up. And so, yeah, I think I talk about Hollywood only to say that, like, it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't exist. And so, in the midst of that, what is it now? Like, what is TV now? Some dear friends of mine, their podcast just got a Netflix deal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good for y'all.
Yeah.
But who would have thought 20 years ago that that would be the reality? And it shows you how Hollywood is not making the answers themselves.
No.
So, and that tells me, it's just like, Sam, you do you and you do it well.
Yeah.
Something will come. Because all of this is changing and all of it's becoming, we're reaching a certain singularity of all of it anyway. Like, all apps just end up with scrolling video, you know. There's also a move towards sameness. So it's like, Sam, you just keep talking, you'll end up on some app.
There's also going to be a percentage of films where, like, the independent film directors will just cut their own distribution deals with theaters directly.
Or there's a push probably to embracing macro. I have so many conversations now with you as well about how the real thing that's going to actually, like, build connection with audiences is IRL, in person, micro, niche, just for you, specific. We did this 90s nostalgia bracket at Dynasty Typewriter a few weeks ago, and it was weird and strange and really just for the room. But the people that came, we're like locked and linked for years now. Much more so than any one podcast episode could do.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is...
That's so interesting. You're saying a lot of the same stuff we do.
Yeah.
And also, the lighthouse. Do you remember the lighthouse?
What's the lighthouse?
I Googled lighthouses, and it could mean both things.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a lighthouse theory. Where,
Ooh.
if the industry or the gatekeepers, like the executives... wait a second. Now I lost it.
Yeah, it was lighthouses represent, like, used to be the gatekeeper, and now lighthouses are the creators and the talents.
So the boats used to, if you were an artist, you had to go to the lighthouse.
Yeah.
But now the lighthouse is the creators, and like Netflix and all of them are going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the
Thank you, Dane.
I'm in the process of, like, considering, should Good Tape raise money for our next chapter, whatever that might be or look like. Our studio is doing really interesting and exciting work on the visual side of our industry, but one of the things that I'm, like, in this, like, deck that would be a friends and family round or maybe like a investment round is, like, zeroing in on how important, like, the unscalability of human creativity
also,
is.
Don't ever scale me.
Don't scale me.
Don't scale me.
And I actually think and hope, fingers crossed, but whoever's financing whatever comes next, they have to know that lesson about what works and what doesn't. And what doesn't work is trying to scale human creativity.
Well, and sometimes what made the thing the most interesting was its unscalability. It's peculiar because it's smaller. I think a lot about the trade-offs I've had in different versions of my career and parts of my career in different shows. I've been on bigger shows, and I've been on smaller shows, and I've been on shows where it's just me, and I've been in shows where it's me and a lot of people, and I've been on shows where it's about this or about that. And it's like all of those things worked, and I worked in those things when I was there because they got to be exactly those things. And I think that, like, what I never want is to make a thing that feels special to me and my audience, feels unique to us and held by us, and then someone comes in and says, I got a bunch of money, but you got to make it 10 times as big and make that guy over there like you. I don't know that guy over there. I know my audience, and they're enough. Like, this is also a thing I have to tell myself. Like, most of the time in this pressure to scale and get bigger and bigger, we kind of already have enough.
Yeah.
My show is big enough to sustain itself at this point.
I think that's really, really smart.
And that's fine. You're like, it's sustained. Success is survival. Survival is success. If I'm surviving in a way that feels good to me, I am successful. I think.
Yeah.
I
don't know if a lot of people, that is the goal, right? For a lot of people, when they start a podcast, they're like, we're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Bigger for what?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, to buy. It's so weird in LA. Y'all see it. It's just like, you know when it happens. You can see when it happens. It's like, okay, you get new teeth. You get a house in the hills. You get snatched. You get a destination wedding that has too many people you don't know at it. And it's just like...
Even just like dipping my toe in that world, I've hated it so much. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I left it, but I don't understand that part. There's just this disingenuous element to it all, where it's like you're surrounded by people that you don't know. Don't like. How do you trust yourself? How do you trust them? Like, I just don't understand that mentality. But
yeah, I just feel like whenever I'm around really rich Hollywood types in LA, my biggest takeaway is like, oh my God, they have no taste.
No,
they have no. Their houses are ugly.
Yep.
Or like museums.
Yep.
Not soft to the touch. You know, they're not eating. They're hungry.
Oh, they're always hungry.
They're always hungry.
Yeah.
They're paranoid. All of them are paranoid. They have cars that aren't made for LA driving. And Lord forbid they have kids. They hate the kids. Kids hate them. I just don't ever want to be...
No, it seems miserable.
I don't ever want to make it in that world.
Me either.
This was what was crazy about me and my career, because when I came up, I was literally at National Public Radio for 13 years.
Wow.
And so all I knew was that I wanted to be a journalist. And then by the time I left NPR, after being there 13 years, podcasting and Hollywood were like starting to walk towards each other. And so now I'm in this space where like, I really only want to have good conversations that are journalistic enough.
Yeah.
With people who are cool about cool ideas. But now I have to navigate, and this is just like this year in my life. I have a podcast in development. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
We had a pitch meeting with a streamer. Why? I know the questions I want to ask, but like I have to do that now. And then I've had rounds of reps. I was repped by one agency, then another agency, then a weird manager. And it's like, why? I didn't go into it to do that.
Yeah.
But they just pull you in because it's becoming Hollywood. So what I have to do is say, like, what do I actually need in my stable to play ball with those folks if I want to? But how do I keep from taking on all of their trappings just because I think I'm supposed to?
That is the question. That is the question.
Yeah.
And you're almost like watching it happen, and you're like analyzing it. Yeah. And it's a really weird feeling because a lot of people just go with it.
They just do it. I had a dear friend tell me, and thank him for this, I was dealing with just like a bad rep that I ended up having to get rid of. And my friend looked at me as I'm gushing about, and he was like, Sam, your career is not big enough to need a manager. And I was like, damn, you're right. Thank you.
Ouch.
I don't need it. And actually, I don't think I want a career big enough to need a manager.
Yeah.
I do my little show. I go back home. They call me to do a speaking thing. I do it. Some podcasts are like, fill in and do this, do that. I do it. And then I go home. I'm not bent on world domination.
Those are types of people that get really famous, just saying. That say things like that.
This came up with our episode with Hannah where she was saying how like she covers like the YouTube world as a reporter. And she was saying how a lot more creators are just comfortable with what they have, and they're not seeking to expand.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's like a strand of anti-capitalism entering the stream.
It's a strand. It's a strand of capitalism exhaustion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do I live in a world where I have to make money without the thought of having to make money stressing me out every day?
Yeah.
And I try to. It's not dream smaller, but dream more specifically. Like my big goal for the year, I want to do another one of these live events, and I think I want to do tote bags. Okay.
I love that.
I want to do tote bags.
Did you used to think like I'm going to change the world? Is that how you used to think?
Maybe. I guess you're supposed to think that when you're young.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you realize it's a little more complicated.
Well, then you realize, dear Lord, please don't let the world change me too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
College story where I just took environmental science class. I didn't take a biology class until my senior year.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I need this to graduate.
Yeah.
So I took this class and I learned about, I'm in San Diego. There's a drought happening, Southern California. And I learned about how, this is 2010. All of the terrible things happening environmentally. I go to the cafeteria. It's at the end of the lunch shift, and I see someone taking the fruit water and just pouring it out.
No!
Because fruit water ferments, and you can't keep it for the next
Put it on the soil.
And that really like aggravated me. I'm like, we're just dumping, you know, 4 gallons, 5 gallons of water every shift.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking the magnitude of that. And the next day I have a sign and I'm just silently protesting the fruit water. And I say, don't drink the fruit water.
That is the most Dane
That's
story.
beautiful.
And I did that for 2 weeks.
Stop.
Oh.
And,
By yourself?
And finally, it was like toward the end of, I had nothing else to do. Like I'm graduating. And the administration was yelling at me. Secretaries were like, what are you doing?
They could just dump the water the right
and
way.
I'm just like silent. I'm like, I'm saying what I'm saying on the sign. I'm not going to say anything else. Eventually, the guy was like, the provost was like, you're not going to graduate if you.
What school was this?
It was a Christian university.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was already having
You can't ask questions.
I was already having a lot of issues about a lot of different things happening there.
Yeah.
And I was telling someone like, why did you? Someone asked me like, why did you do this, or why are you doing this? And I said like, if I don't care about the dumbest thing, then I'll let go of that for the most important thing.
That is a great story.
So I always think about the stupid fruit water whenever it comes to social issues, political issues. Like I have to hold on to like some integrity when it comes to these issues. How am I going to change the world?
Yeah.
I'm just going to focus on what I can see and impact in whatever community organization I find myself in.
Well, and it's like, what world am I building for myself? Maybe that is me changing the world. I want to build a world where people have conversations about big ideas in a collaborative manner, where we enjoy art and appreciate it and the people who make it, where questions aren't just permitted but desired, and where, to the extent I can, I'm making sure that my worldview is not just central casting. So build that world. And then, vote and give money to the folks doing the big stuff.
Yeah.
I used to talk about politics so much on a microphone. Now I'm like, I would rather not talk about my politics on a microphone. I would much rather put my money where my mouth is, and though I do that quietly.
I had an ex once who only bought American-made clothes, and that was his thing.
Yeah.
And there were, he still did probably some other, not unethical, but like he ate meat and stuff like that. But like all of his clothing, if it was anything outside of the U.S., he would not wear it or buy it.
Wow.
And
and
that was his thing.
That's his thing.
That's his thing.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was interesting because you choose one thing, and I feel like he put all his focus into that.
Yeah.
It's like the fruit water.
Yeah. My thing is like, if a kid is selling you something, buy it.
Yeah.
If a kid is brave enough to ask a stranger to buy a thing, buy it. I'll never forget. The Girl Scouts, they run this market. They're the fucking mafia. You want those cookies, they're out there, they're doing it. For years, the Boy Scouts could not keep up because they had really bad fundraisers. But for a few years when I was living in D.C., the Boy Scouts fundraiser was microwave popcorn. It's horrible. It's horrible.
That's so classic.
I bought a good amount of microwave popcorn.
Oh my God, what do you mean? Like different flavors?
Because the boys were just like, will you buy?
I bought some microwave popcorn before.
If a child is trying to make that work, you support them.
Yeah.
I've never heard of something
That's why I can't have
insane.
kids, because I just be like, everybody, whatever you want all the time.
No, it's really, really hard. But microwave popcorn is crazy. I've never heard it. Were there different flavors?
I think so.
Yeah.
It was not good.
I had to throw it away.
Yeah. But
this is when I was in upstate New York, and like basically a population of 6,000 people, and someone came to the door and said,
"You gotta buy it.
I'm gonna buy the popcorn."
Somebody came to your door?
Yeah, no one comes to my door. It was like there's no. There's like 5 doors.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about this if I really care about the Girl Scouts or if I just want the cookies.
It's good cookies.
For the Girl Scouts, I think it's more about the cookies.
They also, I don't know, I just admire, like, they feel extremely progressive in a smart way as an organization.
Yeah.
Do they?
In large part compared to the Boy Scouts, which are not.
Okay,
But the Girl Scouts are, like, open and affirming in ways that the boys are not.
This is a
all of it's too much. It's homework for kids. Like, oh my God, let them go play.
This is completely random. But at the university, I went to South Africa for...
Where were you? I was in Pretoria for a summer.
Yeah, I saw that you did an internship in South Africa. I was curious, like, what was Cape Town and Johannesburg for like a month. Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
It was the first time that I had ever experienced being black outside of the American context. Truly. And so...
God.
You know that scene in Malcolm X where he like does the Hajj, goes to Mecca, and he's like, wow! That's kind of how South Africa was for me.
Yeah.
It reoriented my relationship to blackness in a way that made it bigger, which I appreciated. I also... It really made me think a lot about the psychological scars that countries can carry. When I was there, it was the summer of 2007, and they were still getting over apartheid, and you could feel it. It was still a very violent nation at odds. Everyone had bars on their windows. If you had enough money, you had a driver and a security guard, and there were always reports of just physical violence. It was a violent nation that was still playing out its trauma. When I was there, they were still in the process of renaming all the streets.
Wow.
And you're like, cultures carry that stuff. I was lucky. I grew up playing saxophone in my church band. One of my colleagues at the State Department, she was like, I go to this church, I think you'll like it. I joined the church band for the summer, which is so great. So I really got a view into the culture through this Pentecostal church in Sunnyside, the black neighborhood in Pretoria. And I got to hang out with them, and I got to play at every service. One was in English, one was in Portuguese, one was in, I'm forgetting, but I was just like there. And that was the greatest thing. The one thing I regret, they invited me to a South African wedding. And I was like, I don't know, what's the time? And they're like, oh, it's all day. And I said, I ain't got time for that. I should have gone. I should have gone.
I went in 2009, and that's when that was the beginning of like me really deconstructing like my faith and Christianity, because we went in like a social justice context. Like
we're gonna save them.
No. Okay. It was more of a like just learning about history. It was like actually a really good course. It was more about talking to all sorts of people to learn about what their experiences, what their observations are, and it wasn't about no missionary stuff. It was more just like, how are we talking about these topics of race and politics and where like faith sort of exists and all of that. And I was a part of a group where like it was really uncomfortable, the questions that they were asking. And our one adjunct professor, who wasn't in the context of this school but a friend of the professor, black woman, we were kind of like, I was like seeing the trip through her eyes the entire time. Not many others were, and just the uncomfortability of what made her uncomfortable was beginning to make me uncomfortable. And I'm like, what is happening there? I learned a lot on that, and then I think what came after that, Fruitvale Station, Eric Gardner, just and then seeing race in the U.S. was different from that experience.
Very much so. And also, what was like whoa for me was you grow up and you're taught. I was in the home. This idea of Black empowerment, Black solidarity. I got to South Africa, and you're like, no, we're different kind of Black. We're different kinds of Black, and that is okay. I want to know. And they almost felt more difference in me. I remember I'd meet people everywhere, and a lot of really earnest young South African Black people would want to ask me all about America. And one of them once was like, "Have you met Jay-Z and Beyonce?" And I'd be like, it's not like that over there. It's not like that over there. But I found whenever I've traveled abroad, Black people in other parts of the world look up to Black America with a certain kind of aspiration and pride. And I always got to tell them, baby, it's not that cute.
It's not great.
It's not that cute, but thank you. Thank you so much.
I wonder what that is. Is it because they see like Jay-Z and Beyonce as like accomplishing the American dream of like what it is?
I think it's all the wake of the Civil Rights Movement. I think there's still an understanding, and this is, I saw this when I was covering protests for a while. When I was covering politics and breaking news, I spent a lot of time dipping out to cover Occupy Wall Street and then the progressive movement behind Bernie Sanders. And whenever I would talk to organizers across any issue, all of their playbooks still, and this is domestically and internationally, are looking at MLK and like Gandhi. Everyone is still doing MLK. It's wild. Like, we don't talk about it enough. Like, at a certain point, if you want something to change, you need bodies in the street performing their protest in a certain kind of way. And MLK did that. Like, all of it. I don't know where I was going with this. Sorry.
No, that's really interesting to me.
And what I found when I was covering Occupy and Bernie and shit, it's like they all lead to the next one. Occupy picked Bernie. And the organizers of Occupy went right into Black Lives Matter. They were always doing climate crisis work. It's all the same people.
Yeah.
They're just figuring out what to take on this time. That is the most interesting and undercover story, I think, of the last decade politically. Every conversation we're having right now in terms of our politics is really about the 1%. Where'd you get that? The white kids with dreadlocks who were not showering in fucking Zuccotti Park.
And it seems like the laser is getting more and more focused on that, where across...
The kids weren't all just white. I just noticed the white kids with dreadlocks. What are y'all doing?
I had a dreadlock in high school.
Dreadlock?
Just one. I admit it. I was wearing a lot of tie-dye.
Vermont, baby.
Vermont.
Yeah. What were you saying? You had a thought?
I don't know. Whenever dreadlocks come up with white people,
it's tough. It's a tough conversation to have with people and to tell people.
But what would you say when folks are like, you have a dreadlock?
Well, I was in Vermont, so it's and there was a lot of white people with dreadlocks at that time.
Yeah.
Because it was like the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
So no one really asked questions.
No one asked questions. Just let it be. Let it be.
And it was only one, so I could kind of hide it. And I had a nose ring. Yeah, it was a different time.
Yeah.
Well, before we close out, this is like a direct-to-camera announcement. So we are going to, this is, I think, our last episode we're going to take a little break.
Okay.
So this is, I'm the Pod Fade stat of 10 episodes. This is episode 11. So all right, we got past,
I'm a bonus.
We got past the stat, but we're gonna take a little break, regroup ourselves, figure out what's next. I have to figure out where money is coming from because this is all self-financed. And
put a GoFundMe up there, man.
That's what I said.
We are at least subscribed to Good Tape Magazine.
Yes.
That's all. That's gonna come in. But we're thinking about Patreon. We're thinking about, again, investment. Like, money needs to come from somewhere, and I think at the very least, if you have a budget for design work, our studio can support that. Anyway, so that's the announcement. But thinking about just, I guess, the last conversation point that we were on with race and our industry, maybe, Is there any advice that you would give a younger self navigating podcast industry?
At some point, they'll want exactly who you are, so just be who you are. I was convinced that journalistically I could, when I wanted to, out-white the white journalist or out-straight the straight journalist or out-bougie the bougie journalist. I'm better being exactly me, and the specificity of my curiosity makes for a stickier product that will help me stand out and get where I need to go. All of the things I have in the queue right now, I got a thing in development, a book thing working, another thing that's possibly happening. These are people and companies that came to me because they knew very specifically who I am and what I'm curious about. And they're bringing me things that speak to me and my curiosity. I would have never gotten that if I wasn't very honest about who I am.
Yeah.
So that.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great answer.
All right. Well, that's it.
Oh my God. This was so much fun though. I want to keep going.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
This was delightful.
Yeah. Very fun.
Thanks for having me.
Anything to plug or where to find you?
The Sam Sanders Show is available on all podcast platforms and YouTube, but only half of the episodes or so end up on YouTube. If you want the whole thing, you got to subscribe to a podcast feed. I have a weekly newsletter. I also do some fun live shows here in Los Angeles for locals. We're going to do a big Christmas palooza with KCRW around December. There'll be music. They'll be funny. Stay tuned for that. But yeah, at Sam Sanders. I'm always yapping.
And if you need an MC for your corporate event, let me tell you.
It wasn't a bad day.
You came in at 3 a.m. and I had no issue. Like, it could have been a nightmare with anyone else. And I was like, it's going to be great.
It felt good.
And it was
What
awesome.
do you mean he came in 3? Like he traveled?
He traveled in the night before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would not worry either, probably.
Yeah. But I will tell you, the guy was so nice because y'all got me a car because it was a longish drive.
Yeah.
I sat in the back seat and I was like, maybe I'll just like sleep here. The driver's like, you look really sleepy. And I was like, yeah, girl, I'm really sleepy. And he's like, well, you need to come to the front seat. Then you can lay your seat all the way back.
Wow.
And I was like, that's weird. And he was like, come. And I did, and I slept.
Shout out.
It was shout out.
Shout out to that man.
Shout out to that man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to This Is TV Now, a new podcast from Good Tape Magazine. Today's episode was engineered by Thomas Willett and both mixed and edited by Fred Munoz with Sounds Visual Studio. The artwork was designed by Sammy Whitwer for Good Tape Studio with photography by Maggie Shannon. Our theme song is New Me Win by Brian B. Stray. And if you're following us on social media, at This Is TV Now on all platforms, our clips were designed by Andrew Calloway. If you're enjoying the show, we'd appreciate you getting the word out. Rate and review the show, share with a friend, email a colleague, or better yet, post this episode on LinkedIn. That's it for today. See you next time.